Addictions and bad behaviors are products of mindset. That is, that the addictions and those bad behaviors come about as a result of certain bad mindsets, like negative, toxic, never enough, always looking for the next best thing, not knowing, uncertain. These are all different types of mindsets that just come off the top of my head. Okay, hello, my name is Sharlot Eisentraut. I am a certified life coach and I have a civil engineering degree. I use my degree to help other people. A lot of what it is that I'm going to be talking about today, which is how it is that addiction affects communities. I have gained from observation of people. I've gained from personal life experience of dealing with people who have bad habits and addictions. Addictions can include mindset. It can include control. It can include gambling, sex addiction, love addiction, and of course substance use and abuse of different types, your chemical and your biological substances, so the earthly things as well as the man-made things, and of course as well as a lot of other activities that people have used as a way of at first coping with life, and then it became a crutch, such as many things that at first we or anybody else might use as a crutch, and then become dependent on it, and then ultimately become addicted to it. And so mindset, which is going to be another series that I'm going to be talking about, will go into a lot more about this similar series as addiction, things like how mindset affects yourself, how mindset affects your family, and how mindset affects the community. And so that's what this series has been about how addiction affects your health, how addiction affects your loved ones, and how addiction affects the community. And the reason why it is that I wanted to focus on addiction first is because one of the things that we have to do, or that I'm comfortable doing, is starting off at the core, at the center, at the origin, and then moving out so that then we can understand why it is that things are and things happen the way that they do, because a lot of this stuff is very, very much connected. And I have I'm really excited to announce that I will be having a few really interesting resources for sale on Amazon here very shortly, and that's just so things like ebooks, some worksheets, and possibly also some videos. I'll have to figure that out, but these are things that you can use at home that can help you with mindset. They are tools and resources that are meant to help you understand where you are and where you're going, as well as cultivating good and prosperous, abundant mindset. Okay, so moving on. Oh, real quick before I forget, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to share this with someone who you think will benefit. The reason why it is that I'm making this video today is so that this is for those loved ones who have somebody who is addicted, and even for the people who are currently in a state of addiction, either mindset or substance or bad habits or otherwise, who want to get rid of this and have a reason and have a purpose more than just themselves. Sometimes in order to really understand why it is that we go through things like mindset or go through things like therapy and deep healing, is to know that it's more than just ourselves, and that we're doing it for a greater good, greater than just who we are as people. And a lot of the times just having that purpose, having that reason to make a change, can be very, very helpful in being able to start to get help, and to start to seek for help, and to start to seek help, and to and to recognize that one needs help. So alright, so I have here 26 ways that addiction affects a community. First of all, safety. Certain addictions can cause people to rob, steal, be more violent, or even be aggressive. One of the things that just came recently to my recognition is that depending on the drug and depending on how the drug affects the person, and even depending on the activity or those bad habits, that mindset can put people in different psychological states. So just recently I was listening to the dark triad. That's psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. And one of the things that I noticed as the person was talking about the dark triad, and also borderline personality disorder, so technically 4. And one of the things that I found was that when I observe people in these addictive states, or in the state of being on the substance, or being like so ingrained in the addiction at the moment, is that they actually take on a whole new personality. And people can be a lot more selfish, can say things that they don't mean in the moment, can be a lot more insulting. And a lot of this, as a part of this, is taking away that empathy and bringing forth truth, or even just wanting to be mean to someone. And because of these substances, and sometimes even because of just the activities themselves, people express themselves differently, because it puts their brain literally into a different mindset. And this is a big reason as to why it is that I'm starting with addiction, because addiction is actually so much related to mindset. Because I didn't just say addiction substances. No. I said addiction and addictive behaviors such as bad habits. And big part of addiction includes things like control, things like never being enough, things like depression, things like power and influence, or the obsession with power and influence, or the obsession with not having enough or having too much. These are all things that are a part of mindset that affect our day-to-day lives. And when we're able to instead have this addiction be something that we have a lot more control over, it takes up and it takes a part of our lives. And most of the time we don't even know that it's there. A lot of people don't recognize that an addiction is there until they see the consequences of their behaviors, of their bad attitudes, of their bad habits. Okay, so safety, increase in robbery, the increase in violence, and increase in aggression. Again, it's not just limited to substance use, although substance use can make a big impact, and it depends on the person and it depends on the substance, because everybody's not going to be affected the same way. And that also goes for mindset as well. There's certain people who can go through certain situations and come out fine, while other people are traumatized for life. These are real things. This is part of the world that we live in, and as a part of specializing in mindset and specializing in addiction and addiction behaviors. So again, addiction is just one part of mindset. Mindset affects so much of our life. But I needed to start with addiction because addiction is so closely related to mindset. Okay, So anyway, so increase in dangerous areas or just having dangerous areas in a city. So again, we're talking about like as a community. So this community, let's say hypothetically this community is a city, and there's just certain neighborhoods that you find that you need to avoid due to trash or just it's run down or you just know that it's violent. And this is a big, these are real things that are affected by addiction, because when we get so involved in addiction, other things are put to the wayside, other things are ignored or just completely neglected. City planning. So this all can affect city planning. So you want a lot of cities. When you have a good plan in place and you're able to initiate that plan, it does have some dependency on the citizens of that city. So are the citizens taking care of their house? Are the citizens being active members in the community? Are they making sure that their roads are nice and their sidewalks are good and things that look nice, right? This is a part of city planning. And so number 4 is enforcement. Being able to enforce the rules, or how well you're able to enforce the rules. Addiction can have a big impact, and how much of people are addicted. I'm even going to include the addiction to violence, because again, this goes under the umbrella of control. There has been, I'm going to get to it very shortly, but there has been cities that have been completely abandoned because of violence, because the city was so already so focused on the addiction and addictive behaviors that they weren't able or just didn't have the resources to really be able to enforce the laws and the rules, because addiction had run so rampant. Unemployment. If you're just looking for that next high of whatever substance or behavior or control, then a lot of things are going to get neglected, such as employment and being employable. And so then, as a part of unemployment, also affects homelessness, or the rate of homelessness. So number 6, tattered or shabby housing areas. Like I said, when things get pushed to the side, then now you have neighborhoods that don't look as good as they could. Increase in poverty. A lot of people who are addicted have many stories that I've heard have used up their entire savings because their only focus was on their addiction. And again, this is behavioral. This could be a substance. This could be control. This could be violence. This is like, addiction is more than just substance abuse. It also includes behaviors and thought processes that the cycle continues in a very negative way. So increase in crime, decrease in being able to communicate with others. Like, I'm thinking of a video I had watched where somebody had a night of it was bath salts, and the guy is just like outside of this woman's apartment, clearly on something, and just not there at all. And this is and she very rightly probably felt very unsafe and called the police. And it's and he couldn't be able to say anything. He was literally foaming at the mouth. This is real things. Other things in terms of communicating with others, especially in terms of mindset, is ego. Ego and pride play a huge role in miscommunication and not being able to connect with others, because when we're so focused, ego focused, being able to understand each other from their point of view can really get in the way of communication, and even just being able to express yourself, or even interpreting expression, can also really get in the way of good communication skills. As of course, so can addiction. Just like what I said about the guy who was on bath salts or whatever it was that he was on. Clearly, he wasn't able to communicate what it was that he had done, but it looked bad. It looked scary. Like, increase in homelessness. Well, if you're only focused on your addiction, and you can't seem to communicate with others, and you're putting things to the wayside, and you're not looking at your employment, then the likelihood of homelessness does come into play. One of the things that I read, actually, this was a really interesting book called Addict in the Family. The woman talks about her daughter who was addicted to heroin. And the daughter, so addiction and the substance, heroin, had altered her brain chemistry so much that the daughter, who was now in jail and had lost her family, lost custody of the kids, had divorced their father, and now is in prison, still thinks that even though she's in prison, that everything is okay. And that it's this. So again, I talked earlier about fantasy and how it is that addictions can create a fantasy world. And when we are in the middle of these addictions, we are literally in a fantasy world. Again, this is behaviors. It also includes thought patterns, mindsets, and of course substances. So, and a lot of people who are perfectly sober, walking around among us, and even ourselves, on occasion, because our reality is based so much on our mindset. Our reality is based so much on what we take into our bodies and what we put out, and so she, this daughter also at one point had experienced homelessness, but because she was in the middle of her addiction, it made no difference to her, because she was so wrapped up in the fantasy that the drug brought her, because maybe for her reality was too much, or she just happened upon it and it took over her life. And that's how addictions work sometimes, is that, maybe you didn't grow up all that bad, and you just happened to find the addiction, or the addiction found you. And is this? Yes, it is. Okay, good. Or the addiction found you, and you're like, okay, so one of my addictions has been perfectionism. I love it when things are orderly and together. It has been almost to the point of OCD in my life, but once I was able to recognize it, then I was able to go through those steps of being able to let it go, understand it, and have a lot more control over it, and not have so much control over my life. And if I had been so focused on OCD perfection, and if I had kept that up, because of that mindset, because of that obsession of having everything be in order, this really does get in the way of being employable. And like, because not everybody's going to want to work with someone who is obsessive compulsive, or somebody who is perfectionist, or somebody who is just so focused on one thing that to a lot of other people just doesn't seem to make sense. Okay? This is a big part of why it is that mindset is just so important, because when we are obsessed about something, because this is a part of obsession is like addiction in terms of mindset, because it's that obsession with control, obsession with influence, obsession with power, obsession with the activity, whatever it is that the obsession is about, then that, when we're not aware of it, takes over control of our life, and ego is left being like, well, it wasn't me, and pride is like, well, it was somebody else, and instead what we have to do is have some self-reflection and be able to say, maybe I'm not perfect, or maybe there is a problem, maybe I need to, maybe I need to do something about this. And that's where addiction and addicting behaviors really come into play, as well as these like really bad habits. Again, the behaviors, everything, behaviors, substance abuse, obsession with control, and influence and power and everything like that come into play. Okay, so increase in incarceration. Well, if you do a bunch of crime in order to get your drug or addiction, or or that rush of dopamine and serotonin, because that's really what it is, that's really what you're after, and which is why it is that you're partaking in a lot of this stuff, well, you might find yourself incarcerated. This includes so this can happen in business. People love it when they have influence and power, but that obsession can cause them to lie and commit fraud so that they continue to look powerful and influential. This is what happened to Exxon as an example. So so in business, one of the things that happens again is just or getting obsessed with money, or having a lot of money, because there's a point where it's just never enough, and it's never being able to make that goal of saying, this is enough, and now I can move on to the next thing. Lack of family support, or even just family support being severely reduced due to the addictive behaviors and these very bad habits. If you steal from your family, if you lie, they can only be forgiving for so long. I'm thinking about a lot of these shows that I've watched of them holding these intervention. Like, I'm thinking of the show Intervention. Family loves you so much, but there's also a point where it is that family has to say, you know what, I have to, as a parent, and this is really hard, is as a parent, as your supporter, as your guide, I have to let you fall in order for you to really learn your lesson, because clearly, as a parent, when I tell you that this is a bad idea, you're not learning the lesson. And as a parent, I have to step back and reduce that family support so that you can learn the lesson of why it is that addictions are bad. And I'm also thinking of the show on Netflix that's just absolutely amazing. I think it's like Horror on Hill House or whatever, like that one. Really, really good. But again, there's that guy who's addicted, and after a while the family is just like, we are just so exhausted financially, emotionally, psychologically, that we just cannot continue to support your addiction. And they had to get to a point where they were like, well, we need to allow you to fail on your own, because even if that means the risk of you doing something incredibly bad to the point where it is that you could unalive yourself. Unalive yourself. How did that come about? Anyway, and yeah, that is a part of addiction. And then I've also seen a lot of people who say, well, so and so in my family is just so toxic and just so negative. I had to remove myself from them. And these are things that really do happen. And this is, again, why it is that mindset is so important, and it is so caught up with addiction. Okay, so number 13, does not give a city a good reputation. So, or even just knowing that there are certain parts of the city that are like this, but it can especially give a city a bad reputation if those addictions and those bad habits run rampant. And I'm actually going to be talking a little bit more about solutions, definitely not solutions, and patterns that I've noticed. So, number 14, shame and guilt. So the citizens, the citizens observing others who are addicted, or even those who are in the bad, the obsessive compulsive and addiction behaviors themselves, can feel a lot of shame and guilt for what they're doing. And these are a lot of big emotions. And what does big emotions end up usually doing? Sometimes, but not always, most of the time, these big feelings can actually make people more likely to want to do the addictive behavior, unless there is significant intervention and support of saying, something's not right, we need to make a change, and we're going to teach you how to make a change in a healthy way. Okay, so, number 15, abandoned cities due to crime and drugs. There are, in fact, cities, even just here in the U.S., that have been completely abandoned. A lot of it was due to crime, just so much violence and so much crime and drugs. And so they're just sitting there like statues, like nobody's using them. And there's these like beautiful houses that nobody's using, and the water's turned off and there's no electricity. So these are real things that can happen as a result of addictive behaviors, as a result of addiction. Because one of the things about addiction, cognitive and physical and substance abuse, is that these addictive behaviors is not always just like isolated to one person. It can spread, which is why these things like need to be taken care of in a healthy, legal, good way, so that it doesn't spread. Because otherwise, a lot of the times, a lot of people are like, oh my god, I'm so exhausted, just let it be. Or they're like overwhelmed. These are not good things. This is not how it is that you, these are not good ways to deal with addiction. Good ways to deal with addiction are setting good boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, and then creating and then maintaining those healthy boundaries. And that means also communicating those boundaries through rules and through laws. Okay, so there's been flies around here for some reason, so I'm sorry, I've been a little bit distracted. I'm trying to keep on this, but it has been a little bit distracting. Okay, so decrease in cognitive function, like I said, that one video of the guy clearly on something and not able to speak at all and like foaming at the mouth. he's still alive, but it's like, okay, this is like definitely one of those things. Another thing that decreases cognitive function is things like limiting beliefs, and like sometimes this kind of behavior of wanting to be right all the time. This is a part of the addiction of control. So if somebody is in this cognitive area and cognitive like mindset area where they're just absolutely obsessed with control and power and influence, but they're not so obsessed with like actually being right, then that's where the cognitive function is really being decreased, because it's not about being right anymore. It's not about actually being right, not about actually being factual. It's about being on top, or like being in control. Which again, like, how can you actually be in control? How can you actually be like factual if so much of what it is that you're saying is based off of emotion? Because facts don't always align with emotion, and the obsession to be right all the time, even if you're wrong, can actually push a lot of people away and cause you to no longer have that control and influence. It's one of those, the more that you try to control, the less control you actually have, because people leave. People move away. People say, no, I'm not going to continue in this behavior. I'm not going to allow you to continue to talk to me this way. So decrease in creativity. So when you're in the middle of the addictive behaviors, I'm thinking of a particular company that it was at a job fair at college, and right away, the behavior that I got from them was one of, I'm better than you. Now, I can't actually say the company's name, bless their heart, but but one of the things that I had picked up on really, 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 really quickly was because they had this mindset, because they had this attitude of, I'm better than you, that creativity was severely stifled, probably along with intelligence. Bless their heart. Again, bless their heart. Bless their heart. So, because how can like, if you have such an atmosphere that is so much about control and so much about, I'm better than you, even though there's no evidence to actually show it besides you have a job and I don't, I was like, I see this as being very stifling. I see this company as being very controlling. I see this company as being very greedy, and probably not a good company to work for. And so I had said, thank you for your time. Goodbye. Like, I'm not interested. Because if you're already asking me, like, oh, can you do this program that is like super easy? It's like, I mean, yeah, I can, but I don't really want to work for you, you know? Like, if that's what you're selling, if the idea of being good enough is terrible for you, then I'm good. Bye. Number 17, when they know they are contributing and not. Okay, so people tend to feel good when they know that they are contributing versus taking. So one of the things about addiction is that if you know that you're in, like, say you're in the middle of a substance abuse thing, and this is again based off of what I've seen people who are addicted, and then when they're not on it, then they're super depressed because reality hits them like a ton of bricks, and they realize in that moment of sobriety that they are taking and not giving. And a lot of the times that really does cause a lot of depression, I could imagine. And I've also, when I've had my vulnerable moments in my life, and I needed help, and I wasn't able to give help, it makes sense that I wasn't feeling very good. And when you're not in the throes of addiction, when you're not being controlled by your addictive behaviors, you're able to contribute a lot more, and you're able to like feel a lot better about it, and just feel a lot better about yourself, because you know that you are contributing and your addiction isn't controlling your life. So employment again is greatly influenced by addictive behaviors. If you're in the throes of addiction and the only thing that you want is your addictive behavior, again, this includes controlling people. It does influence employment, including holding down a job and running a business. Number 20, decrease in healthy babies that are born. And this also means an increase in mortality rates of children, and also sometimes even of the pregnant mothers. This can really affect a community in terms of population and the rates of women to men, including the rate of bringing up the next generation. Number 21, businesses. So if you're in the throes of addiction and you're not working on your business, or you're so obsessed with controlling your employees, your business probably won't last very long, and even successful businesses can go under, and can prevent businesses from being successful if and when you're in the throes of addiction. Number 22, city maintenance. Again, this is just so part of keeping a city clean, tidy, free of crime, free of graffiti, keeping the roads nice, keeping the sidewalks nice, keeping the buildings nice. These are all a part of city maintenance. And if someone is in the throes of addiction, whether, again, behavioral or substance or otherwise, a lot of the times, like I've said in other videos, by being in this fantasy world, one can think that certain activities and behaviors are perfectly okay when they are not. And I've seen my share of bad behaviors due to other people being in the throes of their mindset, behavioral, and substance use addiction. We'll just put it that way. And some of them are clean, some of them are a lot less clean, and it can really make a city stink. 23, again, reputation of certain areas, or even the reputation of the city itself. Increase in mortality rates. This could be, increase in mortality, death at birth. This could be increase of mortality rate due to overdosing. This could be mortality rate due to violence. Because again, that addictive behaviors is not limited to just substance use. Increase in unethical behavior. Again, when we're in the throes of addiction and we're in a fantasy world of what is right and wrong. They the line can be very blurred between what is ethical and moral and what is not, and and situations and addictive behaviors and addictive thoughts can create falsities in the mind where someone thinks that an activity is okay to do even when it's not. And so that's where you get the increase in unethical behaviors. When for some reason the Manson murders come up because as a part of mind, there was a level of drugs, there was a level of isolation, there was a level of mind control. Bless their hearts. But they had, because they had been as a part of a kind of cult, and they were isolated, and they were given drugs, or they were under a certain situations, certain thoughts started to infiltrate their mind, and they started to think that certain activities were okay when they are not, when they are definitely not. And so if you don't know what that is, Manson murders is that Manson had convinced his followers to murder some celebrities, and apparently they got the wrong people, but nonetheless it happened, and it was horrible. And so addiction and addictive behaviors and cult-like behaviors can most definitely make people act out and do unethical, terrible, terrible things. Number 26 is squatters. If you have a city that is not being very well maintained, or you have areas that are not being well maintained or owned, or are being completely neglected, people who need shelter will find it, and that includes squatters. So some potential solutions, and then I'll go into definitely not solutions, and then patterns I've noticed. Okay, so potential solutions. Addiction-specific therapy, addiction-specific group therapy, incarceration dependent on the crime, incarceration dependent on the drug. Not every drug is created the same, and not all drugs affect all people the same way. Self-reflection, so right here, like this is an example of self-reflection. Number 6, this is a big one, trauma therapy. So this could be trauma therapy. This could also include eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. This could include past life regression therapy, and I'm sure that it can include a bunch of others that, or hypnotic therapy could be used, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other therapies that can be used, but in particular those that really, really help with trauma, those are going to be your biggest influence, and but you have to, there's a lot of preparation for it so that you are emotionally and psychologically ready to face those inner demons, so that you can make radical change in your life, your business, and your mindset. Okay, so number 7, the addicted or afflicted need structure and reasons not to go back. So this can include things like why it is that I'm giving up this addictive behavior, substance, or mindset. and it includes what I can do instead. So if you have 2 lists of like why it is that I'm not doing this anymore, like here's an example of mindset addiction. Mindset addiction could include you're putting yourself down a lot. Like if you have thoughts continuously of thinking that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're stupid, whatever. Write down why it is that you need to stop this and what you can do instead, or like what you can tell yourself instead, and then start making those small steps towards being good to yourself. Number 8, this is one that I really like, but everybody has their personal preference. Letting the love of God, others, or community in because the addiction did not, because maybe the addicted did not grow up in a very good home environment, or the home environment had turned toxic, or the home environment had turned neglectful due to divorce, suffering, or the death of a loved one. But definitely letting the love of God, others, and your community in can be huge in terms of just letting go of some of these addictive behaviors, because at the end of the day, a lot of us, a lot of people, a lot of families that I've seen, one of the things that they are fearful of the most is whether or not they will still be accepted. And whether or not they'll still have people there for them. And whether or not they'll be understood. But definitely that fear of whether or not you'll still be accepted is huge. Because a lot of the reasons why it is that a lot of people start these addictive behaviors, start these coping mechanisms, is precisely because they want to feel more connected. And this is a part of coping. And this is a part of coping with life. They want to feel more connected either to their community, to their environment, to God. But when addiction can take hold, that's where separation from those things actually occur. Because then it takes you to fantasy world, and then now you're no longer based in reality. So number 9, forgiveness and repentance of the addicted. So as in forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, and making a promise to yourself, and then doing your best to keep that promise going, because it is a process of not doing those behaviors, not doing those habits that got you in trouble or got you addicted in the first place. Number 10, commitment to personal change. We can't actually make any kind of changes in our life, either mindset or behavioral or situational or otherwise, if we don't commit ourselves to the process. And addiction, and especially the kind of mindset addiction that I focus on, is very, very focused on that process. Because it's not going to happen overnight. It never does. And there are certain addictions that are able to be put to the wayside, no problem, but a lot of them are not. And number 11, forgiveness of the addicted and afflicted from the community. One of the things that I see a lot, especially in a lot of these videos of courts, when people are going to court, and someone says, I'll never be able to forgive you. That's a really, really heavy weight to hold on to. And There's a lot of anger that is involved with unforgiveness, and there's a lot of energy that goes into not forgiving. And one of the best ways that we can forgive is to create understanding of what had happened, create understanding of why this came about in the first place, create understanding that sometimes it's nobody's fault, and sometimes it is somebody's fault, but a big part of forgiveness includes giving it to God and being able to understand and know that karma is real and karma will pay. Karma doesn't always pay back right away, but karma will pay. And to be able to give up that anger and frustration and unforgiveness in another person, we let go of a lot of that pain and sadness that we hold inside, hoping that somebody else is going to be poisoned over it. But it's never that way. We forgive not for them, but for us. We forgive because letting go feels so much more freeing than holding on to that bitterness. And number 13, Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings can be very, very helpful. Number 14, I'm just going to add, is karma. Recognizing and knowing that karma exists. And this can be for both those who have been hurt by the addicted and those who are currently in the throes of addiction. Because, so I've already gone over the reason for karma for those who have been hurt by those who are addicted, because when we're able to forgive, then we're able to remember to give it to God, and God will give karma. And in terms of being the addicted or being the afflicted of these behavioral mindset and substance use addictions, karma can be very powerful, because when we realize that what we're doing will eventually come back, either in this life or another life, and that we will pay through pain and suffering and lessons, we are more likely to turn our life around, because karma does pay. Karma is an energetic force that does exist, and karma is also very, very much about the natural consequences of our actions. If you do bad things come to you. If you say bad people will act badly towards you. If we do bad things, or take bad things will happen to us. This is a part of karma. It's a part of natural consequence. It's a part of also logical consequence. And again, just like with addiction, the more you're unaware, the more that it can take control of your life, and the more that you're not able to control it. Okay, so definitely not solutions. So just in case, if you're thinking of implementing any of these as solutions, I personally, as Sharlot Eisentraut, just recommend that you don't. Okay, so sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. Please do not do that. Make it illegal to arrest someone who is publicly intoxicated, a nuisance, and on drugs. Oh my gosh, this is so huge. There's certain places in the U.S. where it's oh, well, we can't arrest them even though they're ODing and they're being robbed right now. Hello, where are your priorities? Why are you letting this happen? Okay, yes, I can completely understand. Decriminalize so that you can take a more therapeutic approach. But the problem with that is that now there's not people being arrested and taken in. sometimes for their own good. That's a really, really messed up part about that, is that if you see someone who is ODing or who is obviously on drugs and they're in the middle of being robbed, like, what is happening? Where are these priorities? Where are these priorities going? What's happening? Why? Like, get yourself figured out. Like, seriously, why? Like, oh, now it's illegal to arrest them because they're publicly intoxicated, being a nuisance? Like, get them help. Sometimes incarceration helps. Not all the time, but sometimes. And making it another bad solution is to make every drug legalized. Oh no. Just no. Just don't even go there. That's such a terrible idea. Making every drug legalized, because I've heard the argument of, well, if these people are already blah 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 this way, then just legalizing every drug just helps them go. No. Because I have read, I have researched, I have seen that certain drugs, again, affect people different ways, and some drugs are far more addictive than others. And people who are otherwise very, very productive can go down the route of addictive behaviors and can go down the route of addiction precisely because they've become addicted. Not because of their upbringing, not because of their mindset, not because of any kind of behavioral issues, but literally just because that drug is just so addictive that it takes control of that person's life. That is wrong. That's the devil. That is wrong. It's destructive. It ruins people's lives. It should not happen. It is no. This is absolutely, totally, and completely no. Just no. No. And for those who think that it's a good idea, I'll pray for you. Okay. So some patterns that I've noticed as a part of addiction and the community. The more prevalent addictive behaviors are, so again, this is why I have to keep reminding, but I don't know, is mindset, behaviors, and substances. The more prevalent addictive behaviors are, the more that community leaders and government will be affected. I'll go into it a little bit more. The more community leaders and government that are affected, the more laissez-faire or laissez-faire, like, oh, it doesn't matter. Laissez-faire, they will be about enforcing the rules. So the more that community leaders and government are affected, the more that they'll just allow bad things to happen. And they'll be less about enforcing the rules. This is a big no-no. The more laissez-faire the communities and the community leaders and government are, the less prepared they will be when a real crisis occurs. One of the things about addictive behaviors, say you're in the throes of addiction and say a riot occurs in your community, or a fight breaks out if you're a very small community, and if you already had that laissez-faire and you don't know who it is that's going to be enforcing the rules, or you don't have enough people who are enforcing the rules, you're gonna be, I'm trying to use words that are appropriate. You're going to have destruction and chaos on your hands, and you won't be able to control it. That is not a good place to be, Because if you have destruction and chaos on your hands, and it's like basically like having a tornado come through your city, if you are not prepared, all you have to do, all you would be able to do at that point, because you're not able to enforce anything, is to sit on your hands and wait. And hope that you and your things are not crushed, robbed, or killed. So, being prepared and understanding that addiction behaviors are real and that addictive substances can have catastrophic consequences when unchecked. Like, you gotta, when you know that, then you're able to be prepared, and you have a reason to be prepared, so that you're protecting your city, you're protecting your community, and you're protecting your community against the overwhelm of addictive behaviors, because addiction behaviors does not just stay right in the center. Addictive behaviors does not stay right in the self. Addictive behaviors can grow, just like how addictive substances can grow and become more and more and more until it is uncontrollable and inconsolable and overwhelming. And so being able to snip it in the bud while it's still fresh and be able to put those solutions into play while it's at its most critical point is so, so important in terms of keeping a community safe, shielded, and protected. So there are cities and towns around the world that have been abandoned due to addiction and addictive behaviors. These are addictive behaviors, things like this obsession with power, control, and influence, obsession with money, like turning off the water because you want to save money, and yet everybody gets ill because the water is not actually being kept clean. And so people leave because they don't want to get sick from the water, or because a power plant or a nuclear power plant or whatever kind of plant has become so obsessed with power and money and influence that now key parts of your city are under severe attack, such as the health of your water. These are real. These are real things that have really happened. So there are cities around the world that have been abandoned due to addictive behaviors and laissez-faire attitudes from community, leadership, and government. So with that, I'm going to leave you with one question. Do you have an addiction? Just answer for yourself. Do you have an addiction, either substance, behavioral, or obsession with influence and power, that you know that you need to take control of, transform, change, or improve? Do you need that? Do you have that? And if you do, then I would recommend that you follow me, because I'm going to go over mindset and how it is that it controls our lives, and how it is controls our loved ones' lives, and how it is that it controls the community, and we'll really go a lot deeper into what that means. And also, just so you know, I do have products on my website. The links are down below, but I will be starting to get those products out onto Amazon, just because it's probably a lot easier in terms of the whole electronic process and everything like that. So I'm really excited about that. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this with a friend who you think will benefit. And I will see you later. Bye.